So welcome to A Sacred Conversations. We have these monthly as part of the Roberta Robbins website and also part of the Sacred Medicine Path. Today I've asked the lovely Flora Ware to join me in conversation because we are about to move into our witchery, priestess, earth medicine, and magic portal with the Sacred Medicine Path. And I met Flora a few months ago, back in the fall, out west, and as soon as I heard her talking and got to experience just a little bit of her magic, I was like, this girl, she's gotta be have a conversation with me, but especially a sacred conversation. So welcome, Flora, to having a conversation with me. Do you want to introduce yourself to those that will tune in for our time together?
Sure. Thank you so much, Roberta. Really appreciate the invite, and yes, have been enjoying our growing connection since we met at the Shine Live conference, where I was speaking about healing the witch wound, right? So you and I both knew that we were on that wavelength. But yes, my name's Flora. I live with my wife and our son in BC, Canada, and I am a sacred leadership mentor, a circle priestess, and I like to call myself a dream igniter because I help women remember their magic and hear their soul's voice and bring that out into the world through their leadership and often through a sacred business. But I don't only work with entrepreneurs, but I do find that many of the women that are drawn to work with me and are in my community are rising into their feminine leadership and into their the fullness of what they're reaching for with their potential through a business. So that's a really exciting part of what I do. And I guess just a little bit more of my story. I was born and raised in BC. I spent a few years of my young life in Ontario, so kind of familiar with where you are. But very blessed to have parents who loved nature. And my mother was a recovering Catholic, so I wasn't raised within that religion, although I did inherit some of the chip on my shoulder against the church kind of through her, which I've since been working through and healing, because I think all the world religions have at their essence some beautiful wisdom and some good messages to share. But my personal spiritual path has always been very nature based. And at age 14, so this is back in 1993, my mother and I went to our first full moon women's circle together. And that full moon circle really changed my life and placed me on the path of this and understanding God as a woman and feeling the divine feminine. And again, right at that time, someone gave me a copy, or I found a copy. I was just thinking about this the other day. I couldn't remember how it happened, but I have it right here on my bookshelf. Someone gave me the copy of Starhawk's The Spiral Dance. And so it all happened at this tender young age for me, where I was introduced to the Wheel of the Year and women's circles and goddesses, and it just all made sense. And I've following the moon cycles and being in tune with that for many years now. And so that's been my path.
Oh, how wonderful to be part of a full moon circle. First of all, so young, with your mother, right? And then all these things just keep like coming in to support you through that journey from your starting of your teen years, which is so important. Because I would say my journey was, I've always, like, when I was younger, I always was out there with the moon. I lived in the country, I was surrounded by nature, and I was always out there with the moon and talking to the trees and all those things. But it wasn't until I got a little bit older that into my 20s that things like circles and gatherings and things like that started to come into my life in that way. So, oh, that's so magical. And so thank you for sharing that, because, you know, sometimes it's excellent for us to understand where we're coming from, right? Like a little bit of our background, how we grew up, what was maybe the structure and energy around that, and then where we are today. And I know with the sacred medicine path, I started my women with, what's your journey been? Right? And you said, like, your mother was a recovering Catholic. Like, and I would say I have a few women in my sacred medicine path that they're like, yes, I was growing up in that.
Yeah, Irish Catholic, right? And and honestly, even recently we were having this conversation. She, you know, she became very disillusioned with that religion because, especially I think at that time, you know, decades ago, they were very clear that anyone that was not a Catholic was going to hell. And so for her budding humanist sensibilities, she couldn't reconcile that there were good people that she was friends with at school who were Protestant, but apparently they were supposed to be going to hell because of not having the same faith. So, you know, she, you know, that's, and when I say that we went to that full moon circle, it was also her first. It was her first circle and mine that we went to together at that time. So it was a special beginning of our journey together.
Oh, and this, I love that, because it's making me think, and I'm sure you're on this path too, in the sense of how, you know, as mothers, and you're a mother, that importance as, you know, she was stepping into healing and shifting over and honoring herself and walking a new path. There you were with her, but it's that clearing the energies of, you know, the past lines, but also her future ones for you to help pave way with her work that she was bravely stepping into, leaving, questioning, honoring her own, you know, knowing within her about that contrast within various, you know, cultures and spiritual practices and religions and everything, and then stepping forward and bringing you along with that. So lucky. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Would you, this is kind of like almost like a side note before we even get into other things, but are you noticing how in the last year or so there is this, not only those that are on this, you know, our path, our healing path, our walking path, our purpose, and, you know, living in harmony, having a secret life, and all these other things that we're doing, but there is something that's coming in about the ancestral healings for the, from the past and the future. Are you noticing that we're hearing that the ancestral medicine coming in a lot more right now?
Well, I definitely am, and although sometimes I wonder if we just pick up on things kind of when we need to hear them, or because we're paying attention, you know, like that people have been doing this kind of work perhaps for decades. But I know that with, like, we can't underestimate the power of the internet and social media, but bringing, you know, more and more things to our awareness and to the forefront. So I definitely have, and that's something that I know that I want to explore even more, because I'm taking it from the point of view of if it's true that we carry ancestral and intergenerational trauma that we want to heal, then it is also true that we are carrying intergenerational wisdom. And so remembering that it's like that work isn't just the shadow work and the healing of the pain and suffering and the horrors that our blood ancestors have experienced, but it's also what was the wisdom, and what are the lessons, and where's the magic from our ancestral lines. And then of course we also have our spiritual lineages as well, as I know that you will understand, and probably all the women, you know, tuning into this, that you know, as souls, I believe that we can incarnate in different experiences so that we can, you know, we're working with many different threads, many different timelines in terms of when we open up to ancestral healing and opening up to remembering our ancestral wisdom.
I think even though we might be feeling like we're seeing it more in the social media and everything right now with the ancestral, like you said, we're kind of picking up something, but I think the truth is if we've been called and walking a path for a while, especially a very, I would say like a witchery priestess path, we've already been doing it. We've already been working with the lines of that wisdom, working with remembering those past lives and the wisdom that's come through, you know, the ancestral, but also those spiritual lines, which always, for me, I feel like, you know, is like those various past lives. It's already been like there talking to us since birth. It's whether or not how we're choosing to walk upon this earth, but also like how we're choosing to express ourselves in the medicine, the wisdom that is underlining all this and is running through our blood and is running through our energetic system. So I think this topic is all weaving into the fact, here we are, you and I both lead a life where we definitely are working within that, healing that witch wound, the inner awakening and empowering that inner witch. I know myself, I'm, you know, stepping more and more trying to help women to heal and shift even the title of the word witch. I know you're doing the same. I know we work with the natural flows of the seasons, the wheel of the year and the medicine that's there, and then the moon. Like there's just all the cycles, right, that just keep on flowing, right? And we're helping women, especially women, to like tap into that themselves and feel empowered with that and help heal whatever parts of themselves that need to be healed, but empowered. So everyone heard exactly what you do, which is a lot. It's amazing work. And so I want to talk about how is that you have it showing up in your life, obviously in big ways in your business, right? With working with women. Do you work with, I should ask, are you working with any men? Do you find that you have men that come into your work, or is it mainly women?
I don't, I haven't. And it's interesting that you asked this because very recently on one of my posts that I was talking about the witch wound and how that can hold us back and still be affecting us, especially if we're not conscious of that past life trauma, and healing that witch wound being, you know, one of the main things that I'm supporting. In that, you know, there was recently a guy friend on Facebook that responded with basically, well, I believe that we've all lived different lives in male or female bodies, and I too have a witch wound. And I had to respond with, yes, and I see you, and I honor you, and I witness you, brother, in that, and that's absolutely true. And so it's something that very recently I was saying, you know, why wouldn't I be open to having a session with someone who's a cisgendered male in this life or whatever, but who feels that connection? So I'm not close to it, but so far it has been women that I work with.
Yeah. And I would say that's the same here with me, though, in probably the last year, I've been getting a little bit more of those comments from people on like social media, a few men, or so when I've been out, like even when I was in Ireland in the fall, one of the gentlemen I was like staying at the Terra Lodge, he asked, why just women's circle? Why are you, you know, what about the men? Like, what happens if I want to come? And he totally, it would be a line for it. And I'm like, yeah, why not? I guess it's just that we've become so maybe almost used to that it's been women so much. But I think there's something now, there's men that are going, oh, but I hold that. I need that. I want to bounce that masculine and feminine in me. I want to heal these wounds too. So it's great that, you know, you're seeing that and that we have to almost like go, oh, okay, why not? And yes, so, I mean, and that's a great thing. That's showing us something's changing too, right?
For sure. And it's funny for me since I'm queer, and I don't actually have a lot of straight men in my life right now. I don't, a few, right? But I'm not in that world because I don't go out. I work from home, you know. I spend a lot of time with my wife and our friends, even if they aren't also queer, just a lot of other women. So that's one of my blind spots that I have to watch myself, that I forget that a lot of the women I'm serving are like live with men or have a lot more men in their life, and they're needing to navigate just more male spaces, whereas I suppose consciously and just with fate have actually removed myself from a lot of those male dominated spaces, to be in a very feminine flow life. But I also think that that's why fate gave me a son, gave me a boy, so that I have that dynamic, because there's still some healing there.
Yes. So Flora and I are showing you guys all that we're constantly shifting and changing and examining different things and how we are showing up within our own selves and our own healings that may need to happen, but also our business, right? Like things are shifting and changing, and people are, and whether it's males or females, and the word witch and where that lands for both genders.
Yeah.
So going now to like, how are you living this in your personal life? How does living a sacred medicine, because we hear what your medicine is, how is that showing up personally in your own structure within your private life, with your family, or within your own personal healing? What kind of things does that maybe you would like to share that it looks like to help? And I ask this question because the women part of the sacred medicine path, they are on this journey, and they're personally going within to heal things and to understand certain practices and what that might look like, along with, you know, some of them are moving into like how they're integrating this into their professional life too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's great question, because it's so important for us to be walking the talk, right? And as with my, I mean, I can identify my top sacred medicine being as a sacred space holder, as a circle facilitator, as like a priestess for temple spaces, and then also with sacred sound and harmonic resonance and using my voice. I'm a certified sound healer, and I used to be a professional singer, and so my voice is my main instrument. So I bring those two things together in a really beautiful and healing way whenever I'm leading circles, for example, whether online. I do a lot of virtual circles, but also in person. So I need to also bring that medicine into my personal practices as often as possible. So what that means is solo rituals daily, practically daily. I don't think a day goes by that I don't at least have a few minutes at my altar where I'm praying, or at least just kind of emptying out, getting into what in my priestess training lineage we call empty presence. I'm apprenticing with the 13 Moon Mystery School with Elaine Kalila. So that's what I mean in that lineage. So empty presence is, it's essentially like meditation, which is something I've never been really good at, sitting meditation. So that's something I'm still working on, really just dropping out of the mind, emptying out, being more in the heart space or the womb space, or looking up at the moon. Before we hit record, I was sharing with Roberta that today is the last quarter, the waning half moon, and I was delighted that this morning I opened up my bedroom curtains and there was the moon, because in the waning moon phase, the moon rises in the middle of the night and doesn't set until later, so we see the moon in the early morning. So I at least had that moment this morning before my son woke up and everything. So I didn't actually get into my whole morning routine today, but I had at least 3 full minutes where I was just looking out at the window up at the moon, feeling the dawn rise because the sun was rising at the same time, and just being really present. And it's something, sometimes it's just as simple as that. And with the sound, I want to do this more often, but chanting mantras, using my Tibetan singing bowl, or even just sitting down at my piano and singing and playing and bringing the music out. So that's how I want to weave it into my personal life, so that I'm doing the work too.
Yeah. I think, you know, sometimes, first of all, I think any of us that are in the world sharing this with others, trying to help, trying to empower, all those things, it started with our own journey, right? It started with the healing, started something, we had to start there. And that's really important to recognize. But what sometimes happens is when that business side starts growing, when there's more people in need and calling and reaching out to us, sometimes then our personal practice and various things start, you know, slipping away a little bit, or it's not as full. And so that's, I mean, that's natural with so many things in our lives, right? Our self-care and well-being in that time sometimes starts getting out of balance to what we're given out for others.
Because so many women are nurturers, right?
Yeah, and that's our natural state. We want to be there, and so then we feel the imbalance when it starts to go off, right? There's signs and that. So we talk about that a lot with the sacred medicine path. We start the women with, what is your sacred practice? Where is that rooting every day? And so thank you for sharing. And I hope my ladies heard that part about, she took 3 moments, a moment to just breathe in the new day. The sun was rising, the moon. She just took that moment because that's what she had to bring herself present to that day before she started it. It's as simple as that, right? To just start the day right.
Yeah.
And some days, you know, I'm sure you have those other days where you're like, oh, I got to be with my altar. I got to like do more deeper meditation. I got to like chant. I got to have the singing bowls. I got to like really anchor into
Journal.
journal. I got to be creative. I got to like be with all that. But not every day is like that. But it's important that there's a moment somewhere in the day, even if it's a few breaths, 3 minutes, whatever it is. So because you're living and embodying this is who you are, and I know this is who you are, you know, because it radiates, right? It's part, you feel it in those different areas. And yes, I haven't been able, you know, you and I live in quite a distance from each other in Canada, but I have no doubt that if I was like there in your personal life, it's like it's there too, right? Like it's everywhere. And I would say, and that's a main key component about living a sacred life and stepping into that empowerment of your inner witch, your inner priestess, like that component, that it's a full integration, but also a continuing process in healing. So as I said that, what is, like, how would you say in your own words, like, how does that feel to you? What is it to live a sacred life? How is it to embody this inner essence in all areas? What would words come up or feelings come up about that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you're describing alignment, right? Where it's like when our beliefs and our values, our thoughts and our actions are all on the same page. That's that living in alignment piece. And so many people try to start with the outer, and that's the actions, right? And that can work. It can work a little bit, but it's our thoughts that inform our actions, right? Like, it's what we believe. It's the mindset. So then we start doing the mindset work. Well, what creates our thoughts? It's our core beliefs and our values. So then you have to do the deeper healing work and really examining that. So there, for me, and what I find has been most effective for me is that, because I did that, I tried to make different changes on the outer, making different actions. Well, then I realized, oh no, I have to really work on my mindset so I can, you know, have more mastery of my thoughts. And then it was, oh no, got to go even deeper than that. That's looking at our core beliefs and everything. When you talk about awakening the inner witch or the inner priestess, you know, words, we all can have different connotations and definitions around them. But I suppose for me, they indicate, the witch and the priestess for me indicate a very similar kind of person, very spiritually connected, in rhythm, you know, practicing, co-creating with the divine source, because that's really what that is. That empowerment is knowing that we are co-creators with divine source, whatever you want to call it, right? That we take radical self-responsibility for our life, our circumstances. We can make choices. That's our gift as humans. We have free will. But there's also, like, we have a co-creative partner. We're not entirely in charge, and we're not in control, and we shouldn't be. And guess what? Neither is divine source, because divine source is co-creating with us, and we have free will and our choice. So it's a dance. But back to the witch and the priestess, I really feel that it's just like almost like a very similar person, a very similar archetype, but the priestess is in service to others, whereas I feel there's the witch can be a solo practitioner and not really be in service with her, like with her practice or her craft. And there's no right or wrong, there's no better or worse either, but to really own and embody the role of priestess, to call yourself a priestess, I believe that then that means for you that you are in greater service. But if you want to call yourself a witch because you're doing your thing and you're connected and you're that's awesome. I want as many women as possible all over the world to reclaim their witch. Mm-hmm.
I thank you, because that was one of my other questions. Like, please tell me what you view the difference between, you know, witch and priestess. I actually have a few other here for you to decipher through and to give your thoughts on. But
I'm all about archetypes, so we can.
Yeah, you are. So, you know, listening to you about that, just even those two, to me, I was thinking like it was coming in like, it's almost, for me, what was sinking in was witch was, yes, it can be solo, right? But I think there's still like of service maybe then to the land or to the elements. Like it may not be person, right? But there's something, it feels to me like there's still of service to the elements. Let's say
very true.
The elements.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, it's almost like the essence, under the foundation, where also the priestess can rise up from in some way. Like there's like, there's like a balance, a yin and a yang, and probably both ways with it. Like you said, it's like they do a dance together. And I am sure you have read the book Witch by Lisa Lister. You have it handy?
Oh, this one?
Yeah, that one. I know. I was like, mine's over there in a box, because I just came back from running a witchery weekend, and I highly recommend it. But she talks about wonderful things on there, and I highly recommend it to anybody that would like to. It's a great read. Let's just say the women that anybody, I love it. I call it like almost like a Bible, but there's so many other books out there I probably could call my Bible. But Lisa, you know, brings in other names, and we could say archetypes, like parts of it, right? So we have, which I love, the shamana, because I like to think I dance between, personally myself, it's the shamana witch energy. Obviously we have healer, we have Sage. I'm like, those speak to me totally. Priestess. Priestess is the area that I feel as though personally I might step into a priestess energy when I'm holding an energy, right? Like I'm like leading and conducting, almost like something to hold within the other for a circle where you might need that leadership with certain things, but then you're also just holding that container for people to step up, right? So there's like all these different parts that we step into. And I feel as though Lisa refers to it more like, the umbrella of the witch, the
Right.
essence that are flowing down. That's how I feel it. And I feel like we could dance through all of them, but we all have more. We have, like, I would say probably 2 or 3 at least that we're weaving through. Of course, you and I just remembered that Flora and I were talking about that book actually back in the fall, because she said to me when I got it, I can't wait till you get to the part and I want to hear what you're connecting in the most with. And there was like 4 of them. I was like the shamana, and there was like the traditional witch, and there was like all these ones, like this one and this one, and this one's definitely mine. So you being very aware of all these other archetypes, what's your thought? Like, what ones do you find that you dance with, that you play with outside of, say, the witch and the priestess? Is there other ones that are coming up for you to the surface to come out into play on certain days?
Well, yeah, because my archetypally, my strongest is the creatrix, and the creatrix being also known throughout the ages as the muse, right? It's that very it's that spark of inspiration, and the creatrix is a real manifester. Like the creatrix knows how to really work that relationship, that co-creative partnership that I was talking about. Of course, there's always, I believe, contrary to a lot of, say, new agey law of attraction, you can really have anything you want if you put your mind to it. I actually don't believe that, because things will only come to us that are meant for us, and our mind, our ego, can decide that we want things, that we think that we want things that actually aren't for us, aren't meant for us. So, but the creatrix is that, is that energy. It's very Aphrodite, Venus, and also like another goddess, a Welsh goddess, Rhiannon, where she's in that energy where it's like, like literally like the wave of the hand, and it just, or the snap of the fingers, and it happens. It's that beautiful energy. It's very creative. And so, as I mentioned, I used to be a professional singer. I've also done acting and dance and all of that. So I've been very much in that archetypal energy for a lot of my life. And I feel that archetype very much in the throat chakra. So for me, that's also a connection there. But so creatrix and wild woman, when I'm definitely in my wild woman moments, I feel that's a strong one as well. And then, you hit the nail on the head with the priestess archetype. And I'm actually glad that you turned it back and said, well, the witch is still in service. It's just a different kind of service. And that's absolutely right. When I was saying in service, I did mean to other people. Like the priestess is that in service to other people, to help them with their relationship with the divine. Whereas the witch is I love that you said in service to the elementals. But the priestess is really leadership. So in the last 3-4 years, as I have really stepped more out into the world and in more of my leadership, I've really felt that archetype in me stronger than ever before. Because previously, when I was leading circles, and I'll fully admit this, previously when I was leading circles, like I was the priestess one night out of the month. I was only in that role. I was only embodying that for a few hours every month. So there was quite a disconnect between the rest of my life. Whereas now it's every single day.
I feel as though it's something that we also have to grow into, right? Like it's the priestess is a journey and something we have to be humble and learn and step into and heal to be able to get to it being more of like what we're embodying throughout various parts of our lives, right? Because there's so much, sometimes I think there's things that we have to heal to actually, well, to get to many things, but because a priestess is holding and being of service and needing to know what self-care and healing and solidness is to be in service to others, that takes work, that path to
Yes.
get there, to fully truly embody that. And I think that's, it's always something that you're constantly having to heal and work and move through, right? To be in that, but then it becomes more of that alignment. We feel it with, like you said, that alignment with, I like how you said, you know, our beliefs, our actions, our values, like those things all coming together, that we embody it more within ourselves. That's, yeah. The hedge witch was one that a few years ago I came across and was like, oh, love like hedge witch energy, which also felt very shamanic to me. I mean, please, if you're like intrigued about anything that we're talking about, first of all, reach out to us. We'll chat lots with you guys these things. And then also, like I said, Lisa's book is great. So what else can we talk about before we wrap up? I feel like there's always so many things.
Well, I think it's maybe, I mean, I'm sure this has come up, but fears around coming out of the witchy broom closet, you know, what, you know, it's because that's why it's easy to just stay solitary and to stay in the shadows and to not really let other people know what you're doing or who you really are. So I suppose I want to bring that up in case anyone's still feeling that shyness. You know, so let's just give a very tangible example about, like, say, like sharing things on social media, right? And you have, you know, you have friends or family on your Facebook friends list that you don't feel comfortable, or you know, you're not there yet, right? Let's just say that you're not there yet. Practice in other spaces where those people aren't, like in like private, like in private Facebook groups or whatever it is, or maybe start an Instagram profile that's maybe a bit of a, you know, a pseudonym or like a different name, and that you're not going to connect with your those friends and family on that Instagram profile, and then get the practice and the experience and the confidence in sharing your message, sharing what you have to say, your beliefs and your practices. There's, you know, there's ways around that. There's actually also even very technical ways that you can learn how to limit who will see your posts on Facebook. Like that you can manipulate your privacy settings. You put those people onto a list. You know, you can get technical with it, but don't let that fear of what other people are going to think or say stop you. Find other ways around to get that out, because we need all of us online right now, all hands on deck, right? As the metaphor goes, we really do. It's really like, it's no longer okay for us to stay quiet and on the sidelines. We need all of us on board to really turn this mothership around. So please speak up, use your voice. Your words are your wands, and we speak what we are, you know, creating into a new future. So yeah, please just find that whatever it's going to work for you, that courage to come out of the witchy broom closet.
Well said, well said. The other thing I would say, you know, all those great ideas about how you can still be moving forward and gently, maybe it's not full yet, like on the Facebook pages and that, but people, your friends, your partners, like in your life, like start using certain words that you're like, oh, they may feel a little edgy, right? but also like the education, like educate yourself, right? Heal that path and understand yourself and what this is about, and then help educate others. Open that up for others. And if there's something in you that's like, ooh, to use the word witch, well, where is that lying within you? What is the stickiness? What is the uncomfortableness? Sit with that. Take that to meditation. Take that to a healing circle. Ask for some wisdom before you go to sleep at night, all these things, so that you can have some understanding for this, because then you not only are going to be empowering and helping yourself, but then your words and how you're expressing yourself and showing up, and others that you're sharing that with them, it's going to have this rippling effect that we need to like awaken so many, right? Ourselves and others around us. And I know when I run circles, and especially the witch, what I'm now referring to as my witchery, I just had an Austera one or circle, is to start healing some of that, like bring it up. Even if it's, a little uncomfortable, bring it up, talk about it. And I find it empowers women when they see that they're not alone, that there is power and wisdom. This is not a dirty, bad word. And that actually just they feel supported, so they walk away also like they're walking away with their coven started, right? They're walking away with their sisters in that connection, and that builds up that power to come back into our everyday life, which I see that all the time. After a day or a weekend with women, they come back and they're stepping forward, and I have seen how some of them are like, I'm a little concerned about what my mother's going to think about that, or my grandmother, or friends, and what's this about? So do what feels really good in line to you, and add a little education in there, and love and shine, just because there is healing, a global healing that needs to happen about that word witch. And when we state, I am a witch, and so that, I am a witch, are you a witch? Like that whisper. I have clients over the last few years that will ask me when they come in for a one-on-one, they'll ask me quietly, almost. No one else is in the room with us in the treatment room. Are you a witch? Are you a witch? And, I remember a few years back when someone started to ask me that, I was like, I don't even know how to answer that, actually. Let me hold up. I need to like go in myself, because it was like, it's a term where it was like, where do I need to go with that? Am I a witch? So if someone's asking you that and you just don't even know how to respond, that's a good, like, oh, and then educate yourself, educate, whoever needs to be along that journey. So
Educate yourself.
Educate yourself. And there's so many great books out there, but I know, maybe we need to have you ever talked to Lisa? I don't even know where Lisa lives. I think she's in the States, isn't she?
No, she's from the UK, and I did a course with her last summer.
Okay.
She's it was a writing program, but she's a lot of fun. She's also a Scorpio like I am, so we connect. Yeah.
I'm like, we need to have a conversation. I need to since I'm going to be over there, I may have to like see if she's got anything going on. Maybe I need to hop over.
Yeah, well, both her and Rebecca Campbell live in Glastonbury now.
Well, and of course, I am heading to Glastonbury in a few weeks along part of my Ireland trip. Well, you're going to be in Ireland too. I thought I'm going over for 5 nights, and we're going to Glastonbury. We're Merlin's Caves. We're like kind of jumping around. But I realized the people that I am connected with, lovely Tracy O'Connor, who is this lovely, beautiful woman that I've connected with in Ireland. And Polly is someone that lives in the UK. Anyhow, these women know Rebecca. I'm like, oh, you know Rebecca. So it's becoming to be a very small world, right? How we're connecting, how we're sharing each other's medicine and magic, whether it's through a book, Lisa's book, through oracle cards, through, courses that like Flora has, goddess archetype energy and understanding what that is, to us running retreats. Like we all have stuff, but really we're just all dancing and playing and supporting each other. And that's the other big thing. Mm-hmm. You support each other on this path. This is not a competition path, right? This is about love and sisterhood, the true essence of love and sisterhood. That we all are unique. We all have magic. Some of them may intertwine and look kind of similar and maybe are similar, but that's why we start making these bonds and these friendships and these connections to have sacred conversations. And that out there, because of those beautiful little golden nuggets that are there just to connect us, right? That, you know, those days that we think we're maybe alone on this. Yeah, we're not. So, I feel like it's been pretty full, this conversation.
Yeah.
I know that we could just keep going on and on and on. Though I do have one more thing that I want to talk about.
Okay.
Isn't it? Now, last year I had Maria Carrillo, who is a really good friend of mine. She talked about the Priestess path. And I know you know who Maria is because she was also on one of your Wisdom Wednesdays last summer, I believe it was.
Yes, for
Yeah.
the Mary Magdalene's feast day.
Yes.
That's one of her specialties. So I invited her to speak on Mary Magdalene. Yeah.
Yes. So here we are, these lovely connections. So we've talked about, you know, witch and the different things that fall underneath there. We talked about priestess, but we didn't really talk about goddess. There was little words about goddess in there. And so would you like to share before we kind of summarize and kind of conclude our time, you do goddess work, you connect in with goddess archetypes. So would you like to share some wisdom about that? Because I find that can get a little confusing too, from goddess to priestess to witch to like, what is that about?
Okay. Yeah. Great question. So, and I'll do my best to quintessentialize this, right? Because it is a big topic, but divine source is an energy, right? And humans, in trying to understand it or name it, have given it different names. And for me, like that energy is beyond gender. It's genderqueer. God is genderqueer. But we humans, we try to understand this unnameable, formless energy force through our understandings as humans. So throughout time, men, right, understood that divine energy through their masculine lens, and so interpreted God as a masculine form. Previous to that, in the Neolithic era and before that, humanity in fact viewed that the divine energy as female, as feminine, because and their faith was more in the earth, and that's really where the whole concept of Mother Earth comes from. Is very, very ancient. But around the time of the shift into patriarchy, and the ancient Greeks and Romans starting to understand about planets and the advances that were happening intellectually, all good on the one hand, right? But then it's like we turn to more of like God up in the sky, God being removed from this planet, and also God being separate from our human experience. And that's when the Father God, the sky God, really came into our consciousness, thousands of years ago. So for me today, what that means, and here we are, 21st century, as women, we now, many of us, not the world over, but many of us, certainly in North America and Western Europe, where we have the privilege of more choice, right, more freedom, we can now choose to interact with divine as feminine, and that's the divine feminine. We can choose to see that. Many women still feel comfortable with God as a man, right? Judaic religions, Christian religions, still God, the Father God, and that's fine. But it's like let's bring let's raise the status of our mother goddess back to her rightful place alongside the father god. And then I think eventually, hopefully, we will realize that, oh, they're actually the same person, or it's actually the same entity, energy, right? But right now, where we're at, what I'm seeing is that when we talk about goddess or goddesses, we're not. I mean, we maybe sometimes refer to ourselves or another sister as a goddess. She's a goddess, but that's really the divine energy, not what we can take as in human form. Whereas those other roles or archetypes that you name, like priestess, witch, healer, creatrix, that's how we can embody that and express ourselves in connection with the divine. So that's how I really look at it. God, goddess, divine source, that's like the life energy. That's the life force. It's divine. But we have forgotten that we are divine humans, that we have that divine energy in us, and it's ours to connect with. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I actually also find that some people aren't totally clear on like what an archetype is compared to, say, like a goddess. And so I have to be very clear when I'm, educating, like you said, educating people, sharing, where, right now, right now in my program in Goddess Dream School, we're in the mother archetype. So the mother archetype, very ancient, very universal, very instinctual archetype for women, right? The great mother. The goddess portal that I've chosen for us to explore that archetype through is the Hindu goddess Lakshmi. So we have these goddesses from different myths around the world that can express different archetypes, but the archetypes and goddesses aren't the same thing. We also express archetypes, and so we can have fun, because I could also have chosen the Grecian goddess Demeter as a mother goddess. There's plenty. Yamanya as another mother goddess.
Yeah, there's so many. Yeah,
so many, right? Like, as it's one of the most prevalent ones. So I'm just understanding that, I think, is there's a distinction between like what's really the unseen realms and divine energy, and then like what are we doing with it? Yeah.
So to put this in some other terms too, this is how I'm feeling it's taken all that wonderful wisdom is. So of course we have our archetypes, which, like you said, a lot of people don't quite understand what that means, but it's the medicines, the energetics. And so, like you said, in your Goddess Dream School, you're working right now with the Great Mother archetype, and in there is the essence and energy of what that is, which filters in all these different kind of goddesses. There's a kind of like a list of them. But how do we embody that essence energy within our lives, that Great Mother energy? Yeah. And I think, because I do a lot of stuff with when I start talking about goddesses, it's typically around the wheel of the year and the Sabbaths, and how there's certain ones, but it's still a group. It's an essence of goddesses. Even like, say, at Inlock, I could talk about Bridget, Saint Goddess Bridget, but there's other ones there that are holding that energetic energy that's coming through. Same with our lovely Austera we just had, right? We have Goddess Austera, but there's a whole list of them, because it's an energetic and therefore also an archetype. But then it sounds like, Flora, what you're saying is, if we take it even further and bigger outside of ourselves, the truer essence is this divineness, this holy divineness. And maybe holy is not the right word for everybody, but this great divine energy, and a very feminine sense to it, though, too, it seems, when we tap into it that way. But I don't think it necessarily needs to be the feminine. We just kind of have filtered it in.
Right. But so what I'm proposing is that for you and I, because we are women and we identified as feminine women, when we connect to the energy, we sense the energy as feminine, because I know that men
Mhm.
sense the energy as masculine. So we perceive that divine source as through our lens, as how we perceive ourselves.
And of course, our upbringing, our backgrounds, the spiritual practice, all those are going to mean who we are going to connect with the most, with the, say, the goddesses or the saints or the energetics that come through a certain tradition, a certain place in the world, a certain religion, certain spiritual practice. So it's all this like threads that come in and
Yeah, that's yeah, it all shapes our perceptions. Absolutely. Met lots of, I mean, how many women do you know like love like the archangels, Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, you know? It's you know, I'm definitely not saying that you know, women, you know, should or need to connect with, well, I actually, I do say that they need to. If you're not connecting with divine feminine energy, you as a woman, I highly recommend it, but not to say to, you know, to reject or neglect sacred masculine energy in that, because that's what the split is, what's caused all the problems in the first place.
Exactly. Oh, so I'm glad I remember to drop that one in, goddess.
Yeah.
Because it's such a big part too that we sometimes it's interweaving in so many different ways, and we don't quite have a clear understanding. And I know it's a topic that comes up in the sacred medicine path that women in the group want to have a little bit of a clearer education and where to place it. It's how they can relate with it and start working with, whether it's the witch, the priestess, goddess energy, all those different ones that come up. So wow, thank you for.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was looking at my bookshelf again to see if it's here, but there is another fantastic book that really dives into that. It's called The Once and Future Goddess. I'm trying to remember but it really like it's a very kind of a big picture historical look at goddess culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Unlike the Once and Future King.
Right. I guess that's probably what the play on words were for that title. So the Once and Future Goddess. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, what was that grade? I don't know, grade 9 or something like that. I think that was one of the reading books. So as we wrap up, share anything that's coming, you know, among the horizon for you that right now you're in your Goddess Dream School. It's happening right now. You do run this a few times a year, at least a couple times a year, right? From what I understand.
Nope, just once a year.
Oh, just once a year. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was, for some reason, I was thinking it was like a twice a year. So once a year. So I know that, I mean, we're here at the end of March having our conversation. Flora and I are both setting ourselves into Ireland in just a few weeks to come. Flora is going to be offering a beautiful retreat for Beltane with a couple other beautiful women, from what I understand. And then I know you probably got some other stuff percolating and happening too. So is there anything you would like to share with those that are watching our video today?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it is going to be a pretty exciting spring for us, isn't it, Roberta?
Yes.
Yeah. So what yeah, I think, you know, what's on the horizon for me, and something that I'm really excited about, is that I'm going to be running my Moon Magic Circle Leaders training program again, and that is a training specific to sacred circle facilitation. So this is for any woman that is wanting to start leading circles, either in person, locally in your community, or online, and maybe as part of a business that you already have, and maybe even with the idea that it's not like you're, I mean, I hate to say but like just leading circles, but maybe you want to lead a group program, and so you're going to be facilitating virtual meetings of groups of women, and to really you know, get the confidence and get the skills that you want to really confidently lead groups of women, whatever that looks like ultimately. So that's starting in June. So I am really excited about that coming up, the circle leaders. And honestly, you know, as I'm looking at the rest of my year, I'm feeling that I'm definitely feeling that something new is wanting to be created, to be born. I'm thinking that I mean, I know it's another group program, an online group program. I'm thinking that it's going to be a bit longer term, maybe 6 or 9 months. And I'm thinking that it's going to start probably in the fall, like around Samhain, but I don't know what it is yet. So I'm feeling into that, and I'm listening for messages on what that one looks like, because I feel it. I just feel it, but I don't know what it is yet.
Well, here we are, right? We're just, spring is just arriving. Things are starting to, like, you know, sprout a little bit, but there's still so much. We know there's new beginnings, new things that are coming. I think a lot of us are also clearing out what we've been doing, going, okay, that's been great. What is next? There's something new too, right? Another big stepping stone. And so you guys will just have to keep following Flora. So in that, how do people connect with you? How do they follow you on social media and all those things? What are your 411? Does people know what the 411 is anymore? What's your 411?
I do.
Are they picking up your mail? Sorry, I'm going back a few.
Generation X jokes. Yeah, honestly, I love connecting like as Facebook friends. So if you're on Facebook, just find me, send me a friend request. You know, tell me that, you know, that you connected through Roberta, through the sacred path. And otherwise, I did mention Instagram. I am on Instagram. I'm at Flora_Ware. So that's great. I'm more on Facebook, but Facebook and Instagram are really the only two channels that I'm on. And my website's strengthandsoul.com. So Strength and Soul is my website. Yeah.
Perfect. Nice and easy. Facebook, Instagram, website. You guys can remember that one. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me in a beautiful, wonderful, informative conversation. I have no doubt there'll be different ones down the road as we continue our path and as we keep on crossing paths in different ways too in our medicine and magic. So for those of you that have joined us today, thank you so much. And feel free to reach out to Flora and connect with her medicine and myself. You can find me at robertarobbins.com, or Facebook is a big one for me too, and my Instagram. All can be found though on my robertarobbins.com website. So have a beautiful day and enjoy it. And thank you, Flora.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really beautiful.